your dog has allergies or is chewing, scratching, or licking excessively, this message is for you because it's very possible that the problem is actually not allergies, but muscle, nerve, joint, or back injury that has been left undetected. I estimate that more than 3/4 of all dogs are misdiagnosed with allergies and put on toxic side effect causing medication that suppresses the immune system and causes more problems. Don't miss this opportunity to learn more about what to do about your dog scratching, itching, and licking. All you need to do is to go to petertobias.com/allergies. Join our community and get all important articles, resources, and other materials that have helped many dog lovers to solve their dogs' allergies and live a happy, long, itch-free life. Again, the web address is petertobias.com, petertobias.com/allergies.
Lana.
Hi, Lana. Hi, guys. How are you?
We are okay. First, for everyone else, I would like to introduce you to Lana Niland, who is right now, you're in the Ukraine, right?
I am. I arrived to Kiev last night, actually, and so I'm at home in my apartment tonight.
And I would like to introduce you to Carly as well, who's joined us. And Carly, if you can tell me how you found Lana, because Lana, it is my understanding that you're rescuing animals in the Ukraine and also taking them back to their owners if they left them behind and doing all that. So you're in my.
It's one of the things, yes.
We'll have a lot of questions and we'll be listening a lot. I just wanted to thank you for coming here, and also thank you, Carly, for finding Lana, and for everyone else. Carly, can you tell us how you found Lana?
So we have a mutual friend in Alberta who is connected to the Ukrainian community. So I reached out to him, hoping that he would be able to connect me with someone that I could even just speak to. And he graciously connected me with Lana, and she was very helpful, very communicative, and just very willing to help us, which is wonderful. I didn't know what to expect going into it, but we are so thankful to have found you, Lana. You've been very helpful to us, and an inspiration, really.
For everything.
Oh, that's so good. Well, I'm glad I can help. Yeah.
Well, it's not about. Well, we're glad that you're helping where it's really needed, and for us, it was just we feel, for us, we are on the other side of the world, and we are having. It's hard to find ways of feeling useful. So our community and us, we decided we're going to do a fundraiser, and we'll continue doing that after this little broadcast as well, because we know how much support is needed, and we know how much you guys are doing, but we also want to learn more. So if you can tell me what's been happening and what how you got to Ukraine, how did you get to the country, and what you've been doing there and what you're doing now.
So my connection with Ukraine is it's quite a long one. I arrived to live in 2003. I used to dance, so I came originally to dance professionally with the national ensemble here of Ukrainian dance. From there, I moved on into journalism. I worked with the Seoul English Language Culture and Entertainment magazine, following my dance career. In 2013-14, it was Euromaidan, and following the revolution, we ended up losing our business, which was the publishing company, the two magazines that we published. So you end up having to sort of start from scratch. And from there, I came back to my dance roots, and I started a small business. We make dance costumes, dance footwear, and not only, but that's our biggest focus, I would say. I was able to bring back one of our magazines in 2017, which has since had to close again because of COVID. And I launched a dance academy in 2019, which has also had to close because of COVID. And things were starting to turn around at the beginning of this year, and Putin had other plans. So, to be honest, I will, from the one side, I will say that what's happening here, it affects me personally. But because I've been here for so long, I understand that it's not just me, of course, that it's affecting the entire country and everyone here. And frankly, I'm tired of this instability for all of us. It affects us not just in terms of business, but in terms of everyday life, how we live our lives, how we see the world, what we're capable of, what we think we're capable of doing, what we're incapable of doing because of this instability. So I mean, there was an opportunity, of course, for me to leave because I'm not Ukrainian, first of all, and I could have gone back to Canada at any point, which is where I was born. But psychologically, it wasn't an option for me. There was a need to help, and so I jumped in, sort of with both hands and head, and the rest of my body just followed.
Mm-hmm. When Carly and I were waiting, I was saying, I can't even imagine what it is like to be there. And I can sense from what you just said that being there is almost like your heart is calling you to do whatever you're supposed to do. And there is no question asked. And that is quite amazing. Now, our community is, we're animal-based community. At the same time, we know how much the animals make a difference in the lives of people and even other animals, right? When they're together. And I find it very meaningful when it comes to animals and children. They're the helpless forms of life, and they can't really be on their own without suffering. And I would like you to tell us about what you've been doing and what the situation is in Ukraine and in Poland, and what's been happening.
So my immediate connection with animals connected with what's happening here. I have 3 cats of my own. I am definitely an animal lover. I'm a bit of a Snow White. Where there's an animal, I will always be drawn. Early on, I was asked to take on animals that had been left by their owners, 2 cats and a dog. And at some point, it was about 2 weeks in, because I was in Kiev when all of this started. And about 2 weeks in, I recognized that it was probably time maybe to move the animals on to safety. Not necessarily for myself, but having them all here, I recognized that if something was to happen in Kiev, I couldn't take care of them properly the way I would have needed to. There's no way I could have taken them all down to the shelter, for example, in an emergency situation. And so it was apparent to me that we needed to leave Kiev. And within that, there was another family of 5 dogs and 1 cat who asked if I could bring their animals out also. And so we were a traveling band of 6 dogs and 3 cats to get to Poland and then sort of pass everybody's 4-legged creatures on to their humans. From there, I've kept my fingers in the animal pie, if you like, and I help where I can, or I helped where I can when I was in Poland. Then moved on to Lviv. I was there for the last week, and now I'm back in Kiev, where I will be quite active physically rather than just electronically. One of the things that I don't know to be honest, I don't know what's coming out in international media or what you're seeing in terms of specifically the animal question, because I know that the human factor will have definitely made international news, but I don't know what's happening in terms of the animal question. It's horrific, frankly. People who are responsible for different shelters fled for their own lives, but in so doing, they left animals locked in their cages without food, water, for weeks. And we're seeing that some of these shelters have lost probably 3/4 of the animals that they had there. We're seeing, so early on, actually, when people were fleeing Kiev, just trying to save themselves, not just themselves, actually, they were taking their pets, but you got to the train station and you recognized that there was no way that animals and humans both could all pile on, and it was sort of getting your elbows out and just to get on the train. So pets were being left at the train station. These are animals that had homes originally and were being cared for and fed, etc. And then were left to basically fend for themselves outside. And it was still, we were still in the beginning of March at this point. It was quite cold. Since, for example, this last understanding what's happening or what has happened in Bucha and Irpin, Hostomel, all of the suburbs of Kiev, just a few kilometers actually from where I live, the atrocities, absolute war crimes, not just for humans but for animals as well. I don't know how much you want me to describe, but some of the things are. It's gone past the point of the animals just being casualties. They were sought out and really murdered, but tortured ahead of time.
Oh, wow.
Some of the things I don't want to see, I don't want to remember. But you can't unsee something.
Strangely, about a month ago, I started writing a lot about trauma. It's almost as if I knew what was coming. It was before the war started, and I know how severe this is. So first, I'm really sorry to hear that what's happening. It is hard for me to actually speak, and I will not hide my feelings right now, even though it is really brutal. And I think that our community does need to know, and the world does need to know, and that's why we will not make any cuts in this broadcast, because I think that people really do need to know what's going on. And I hope that by us getting together here, that we'll be able to convince others that there is help needed, whether it's material help, and especially financial material help, but also people who live in Ukraine. Maybe they'll be able to help you seeing whatever we are talking about right now, because they may be living in parts where the situation is not as bad. I do not really have any words why people do what they do, but do you have any insight into the psychology of the soldiers and the people who've gone there and are part of the Russian army? Like, do you have any explanation? You live in Ukraine for a long time, obviously.
Yeah.
Have you been to Russia ever?
Just going through.
No. I still believe that most humans on this planet are good beings. So what happens when they go to the dark side and make something like this happen? Like, excluding Putin, which is another story. I think that mental illness is very clear and evident, but the overall army, the soldiers, and so on. Like, why do you think this happens?
So this is a really important. Sorry, I have cats here as well.
It's okay. We have
who want to be in on the broadcast. It's a really important question for me as well, especially as we are coming to grips with what's happening here, with what's coming out in terms of the sheer brutality of what's happened. People talk about the tortured Russian soul. People talk about the propaganda. People talk about Putin and that it's really him and not Russia's fault. People talk about that it's Russia's fault because they follow him. There's so many different ideas and ideologies out there that you can sort of get stuck and lost in the sheer number of them. To be honest, so if I come back even before I came to Ukraine, my focus and my profession was meant to go into psychology, sociology. I was in the criminal side of it, working with children who were drawn into crime. And I finished my schooling and came here instead. And so this, for me, this question is extremely important right now, not because I need to explain necessarily what's happening here, but how do we get past this? How do we get past the anger, first of all? How do we get past this idea of, because I constantly hear this, never forgive, never forget. That also doesn't get us past to the next point, because we'll find ourselves here in another 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. What we need to do is actually understand what has brought us here, how that can be affected or changed in some way. And if it can't be, then we'll move along that one direction. But if it can be, then we have another direction to move in. The other thing too is that the West tries to understand the mentality of the people from this region, not this where I am, but across the border, with their own value system. And that's also not going to work, because how they were brought up, what they understand to be important for in their own families, in their own societies, is very different from what the West deems to be important or valuable or significant. So this is also something that needs to be taken into account. The idea of respect comes into play quite a bit, and respect not for each other, but for the vertical. And so looking at the higher power or the authority as the one who will look after, as the one who will dictate what should be, and what is acceptable and what is not. We are I would say we've integrated into the point where we are very a horizontal understanding of what, not power, but what significance is. Yes, but in Russia and China certainly as well, and different parts of Asia, it's extremely top down. It's extremely vertical. And if the higher authority says that's not acceptable, then that trickles down, and that comes down then not just to the upper levels of society, but it comes down at every single level. And then that idea as well, we're seeing in families, for example. Papa сказал нет, dad says no, and so you better not do it, or you're going to receive the reaction, the appropriate reaction. So this idea of the top-down authority structure is extremely significant, and it's something that needs to be taken into account in how we understand what's happening here.
I kind of understand it because historically, I used to live in the Czech Republic before the Berlin Wall and before the Iron Curtain fell, and I believe, at least in my country, it used to be a fear that basically prevented us from doing anything or talking against the government, because the government uses methods that are obviously very severe, and they imprison people and they destroy their lives. And as a result, people are afraid. And I can see why it's happening in Russia, because they've had basically totality of some sort for most of the last century and also this century. Obviously, people are getting poisoned and imprisoned and all that stuff. So I understand it, but I also understand the pride and the almost gullibility of believing what people say. And I think that it doesn't happen only in Russia, which I do believe that it does happen. Pax is barking again, sorry. But it also happens in the West. I think that we believe in what we are told. And that is actually the other side of the coin. I have a friend who I will not name, but he used to work for NASA and then for a company in the military complex. And he did tell me don't believe anything that is in news, because most of the time it is not true. So we have to actually, I think that we are scrambling to kind of understand the situation and scrambling to decipher and decode the news that we have and make some sort of sense. And I'm really grateful that you're here today to basically tell us what's going on, because when we started looking for some sort of sensible way of giving even minuscule support, and I hope that support will grow, but right now, it's relatively small. Having the real situation described and having you here is so valuable, and I think that many people will understand, and I hope that that we'll be able to give you more support in whatever way it is. Now, what do you think we could do for you and your organization? Now, what is the name of the organization? The Rescue
Ukrainian Patriot.
Ukrainian Patriot, and that is the website.
Yes.
Ukrainian Patriot.
That's the website. .org.
.org. UkrainianPatriot.org. And the Animal Rescue Organization?
We work with a number of them, actually. So this is Ukrainian Patriot is based on 5 pillars, and one of our pillars is humanitarian aid for both human and animal who remain in Ukraine. So there's the refugee system, the refugee aid rather is being more or less answered. That question is being more or less answered by the international community, but it's those who remain here who cannot or will not, for whatever reason, leave the country, but still require some help, whether it's in terms of food, even in terms of a rescue. So, for example, as I mentioned, I'm not far from Irpin and Bucha, and I will be making my way over in that direction to help with any animals that might have been trapped and still alive, still could somehow be saved in some way in the next few days. So this is a very real question for me personally as well, and I know that there's so many people who are so interested in the question of animals as well here.
Thank you. Everyone, we will be providing links to you in the video. If you wish to donate through our website, you can do that. If it's easier through the payment gateway that you already have set up, or you can also go to UkrainianPatriot.org and donate directly. If you can share this video, I would really appreciate it. And if there is anything else that you would like to know about Lana here or her rescue organization and her charity, please let us know. Lana, is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Let's say on a positive note, tell us something that is really heartfelt and touching, because, as much as we want to know what's going on, and it's hard for me to actually contain the feelings and emotions, I think it's super important for us to also see the bright side and the positive side. So tell us something that that you'd like to share.
One of the things that I loved, if we're going to stay connected with the animal question, one of the things that I love to come across is just how sensitive on the one side, but caring, loving, respectful also of animals, but also humans, our police, our military, and our volunteer battalions are. I'll come around a little bit, but yesterday I was at the train station. I was unable to leave because of the curfew, and so I was standing outside, hoping some way, for some miracle, but it wasn't going to happen. But there was a number of both military and police who were there, and whether it was a babushka, who is an older woman, an elderly woman who needed help moving around the train station, whether it was homeless people, which there are that gather around the train station, these people were being taken care of most graciously. They were being given food. that had been brought for the military who remain there throughout the night to make sure that the station itself stays safe, and hot tea. But this idea, this translates and moves on into the question of animals far and wide, actually, across the country. And I think maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't, and I can share photos if you're interested, of servicemen who, the relationship that they have with animals it does touch my heart, actually. And for example, there was one dog that was found. She had curled up into a car, and I don't know how many days she had been there, but she had curled up in the car of her owner and had been left there in one of the towns, the satellite towns here of Kyiv, and was found just recently. And there is a photo of her curled up in the car, first of all, and then she is smiling with one of the servicemen in a photo. There are numerous photos captured with small kittens curled up either on the shoulder of or on the legs of men in action. Actually, they just want to have this connection, to feel this love. And it's almost like it's a give and take. It's almost like they both understand that it's necessary from both sides. If you believe in this kind of thing, and I do, there is an energy transfer between human and animal, always, and it's very cyclical. And so where we need animals just as much as they do, that comes back the other way around as well. And so if there is something to be taken from what's happening here, I think it is this idea, and this often, this is how I end all of my lives, for example, when I go onto Facebook, because I do share quite a lot. I think it's very important for people to understand what's happening here. I leave with this last sentiment: light and love to all, because without the darkness, the light also cannot be seen. It cannot be felt, and it cannot be understood in such a way as to understand that it's very much a give and take, and that there's a balance in order to understand that without the darkness, you cannot have the light, and vice versa.
Thank you for sharing this with us, because I think it's important in the world of negative news to actually have some positivity. And I think that that's actually something that really shows that the world innately is good, and that it's only spoiled by a few insane people or mentally ill people or traumatized people who basically act their frustrations or their fear out. And I do believe on some level, I'm not sure whether you agree with me, that even people who are who have absolute power or who are dictators, they, in the big scheme of things, are actually afraid and scared. And that is the only way
100%.
They can actually be in the world, to actually react and be aggressive. And so that's important to remember. Not necessarily that it's kind of strange, because on some level, I know that Putin is a dangerous criminal, but I always ask about why he's doing what he's doing. And I always come to one conclusion, and that is that he's afraid, and that's a horrible thing that is happening in the world. So if we can tell each other, and obviously Putin is probably beyond any salvation as a human being on the when it comes to him becoming a normal person. But for everyone else, I think it's so important for us to remember that whenever we feel like acting out, whether it's road rage or war crime, that it is actually that we are acting in some sort of primitive reptilian brain kind of mode that is not who we are, who our essence is. And then it's a little easier to accept for us to kind of heal, and it's easier to actually see the solution or the way to healing. Oh, wow.
Well, and I would take it the next step as well. Once you can if you can calm down in that moment, if you can consciously tell yourself that this immediate reaction isn't going to solve anything, and you can take yourself out of this, as you say, this reptilian state, and then pick apart the situation to then make a logical suggestion or a logical idea as to how to solve the situation. The reality is that the likelihood that you'll be able to solve the situation with far more ease, far more quickly, and with far less harm, not just to the outside world, but also to yourself.
That is very true. That is very true. Wow, I'm kind of speechless, to be honest. I was looking forward to speaking to you because we need to know what's going on, and you're incredible. You're really amazing, and I feel so grateful and privileged that we were able to connect with you. I suspect that this is not the last time. For Go ahead.
Thank you, Peter. You're far too kind. I'm doing what I need to do here because it really is. This is far greater than me, and it really is. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for paying attention to this, because when we work together, what we can accomplish is so much greater, so much more significant, so much juicier and more beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. That's what life is about, to be there for others and making a difference. And
yes,
and it's really amazing. No matter what we do, that personally, individually, we can't really help all the helpless animals and all the helpless children and all the helpless people. But I do really think that if everyone does what they can, that it does make a difference. It's the story of the starfish on the beach, right? You throw one in the water and it matters to that one. So that's what we need to remember. Anyway, I was talking to a friend this morning in Switzerland, and she's American, a very smart woman, amazing woman, and a friend. And she started telling me that she's heard the news that it's not exactly what the media portrays, and that Ukraine is full of people who have foul intentions. And obviously, we've heard it on the news that people are saying that they're Nazis, or Putin actually has used this excuse to invade Ukraine, that he basically has to save the world from the Nazis. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't believe it. I do not think that's happening, but I want to know what you think and why this came up, and what your point of view is.
So it goes back quite a ways, actually. It goes back to around World War II, when Russia and the Russian Empire really felt that they have liberated them. They have liberated the world from the Nazi regime, and when they started moving westward, Ukraine wanted none of it. They were, quite frankly, tired of being part of this, the circle of or under the Russian influence, and were ready to assert themselves and their own independence, which they attempted to do shortly after World War I. They had gone through Holodomor. If you know what that is, it was the man-made genocide by Stalin, which was a famine that killed, if I'm not mistaken, 8 to 9 million Ukrainians. And so, really, by this time, by the introduction of Germany into the world's sphere, if you like, Ukraine was ready to connect with whatever power or whatever influential group might allow them to disconnect themselves then with Russia. Ukraine did cooperate with Germany at that point. It was not until later that it became understood really what Germany's intentions were. And so this is where this idea of Nazis in Ukraine or Nazi sympathizers in Ukraine comes from. It's also an opportunity for Putin to remove the spotlight from this idea that Russia is no longer a real influential country or part of the sphere of influence, or even has the respect that Putin believes that Russia should have, which it did under the Russian Empire. Using this sort of pretext, if you like, it's an opportunity to come in and save those Ukrainians who are everyday people who want, and I in quotes, want to be a part of what was a great empire, who want to be, who want to have a life that is not connected with this idea of Nazism, fascism, which is frankly absurd, to be honest. I've lived in Ukraine for the last almost 20 years. I would be lying if I didn't say that there were these pockets, very small pockets of nationalists, but I think that you find that, frankly, in every country around the world. However, their influence here is, they don't have it, basically. So this is one of the examples or one of the excuses that's been used for Putin to come into Ukraine to legitimize what is happening here. There are many others, but this is just one of them.
Thank you. That's what I thought, and that's what I think. I think that, regimes need duality. They need to divide. They need to have an enemy. And we see that everywhere. It's not just in Russia or it happens in Canada, to be honest, right? The division and
absolutely
the vaccinated against the non-vaccinated and other issues that come up. Unfortunately, those who are, how would I say that? I'm not going to say unstable, but those who want to somehow influence others, they actually need this duality. If there was the idea of peace and everyone getting together, which actually we would if we could, right? Without those influences up in the governments, we would realize that we are all the same and that we have the same goals and dreams and needs, and that the world really is a good place. Wow.
I agree with you.
What do you think of Zelensky, and what is your impression of him? Because I think that he's an amazing person. Again, I refuse any thoughts and ideas that he's a crook. It's impossible. Like only people who don't understand heroes actually can say that.
I'll be honest with you. Yeah. When he came into power, I did think it was a joke. I thought that there's no way that a comedian has any business running a country, frankly. And I wouldn't say that my opinion was any different even until, 2 months ago, let's say. How he has behaved and how he has not just portrayed himself, but genuinely and authentically behaved in such a way that is so synonymous with understanding what's necessary and cutting through the bullshit, frankly, and just doing what he has to in order for him to keep his country stable, secure, free, and independent. I am so proud of him, not as a president, but as a human being, because what he has done this is not about bravery. This is not about having, a big S on his chest. He is doing what he must. What you are doing, Peter. What I am doing. What so many of us here are doing, in order to ensure that how we move on from this tragic circumstance, we move on in a more positive and connected and unified way, rather than, as you say, coming back to this idea of division.
It's very clear that when a country has a good leader, there is impossible things can be managed, right? Russians have left the area of Kiev, if I'm correct, and
Yes.
and they have much bigger army. But what they don't have is the conviction, the real conviction that what they're doing is right. And I think that it's a good example when there is a good leader, the nation comes together. I've had the experience of obviously Václav Havel, also a playwright and in a way an artist leading the Czech nation. And it was the best time and the best period where people really believed in the leadership. They believed in what they were saying because they were really honest and truthful. And
Yes.
in a way, it's actually very rare. So maybe the conclusion is that the world should be run by artists and people who actually, I don't know, I think that why is it that people like them are actually so much more effective and so much better in politics, even though they're not, born politicians? What is that?
I think, that politics has become a dirty profession. And it's become that way because we've allowed it to get that way, frankly. I think that human beings generally, and I will speak about myself as well, we become a little bit lazy and we expect things to happen rather than being active in making them happen the way that we want them to. We expect our politicians to behave in a certain way because this is a position of power. It's no different from, for example, our military or police or anyone who has this idea, a position of influence. We expect them to be better. We expect them to be more fill in the blank, more anything. When that doesn't happen, it's a disappointment, of course. But what do we do about it is the question. Most will move to online, and they become these warrior keyboard warriors, and they have no problem complaining about it. But do they do anything about it? Not usually, not typically. And so it is really up to us. It's up to you and me and anybody else who's listening and anybody who's listening after that. If you have an issue with what's happening, with what you're seeing, it doesn't matter what the question is. Are you willing? Is it affecting you enough to get up and do something about it? And if it's not, then maybe you don't have a right to complain about it. If you're not going to do something about it, then
Yeah, I understand. I just talked to one friend of mine. I was back in Canada, and there's still some people who can't really travel out of the country because of the politics of the COVID situation and so on. And, I obviously, as a person who lived in a totalitarian regime, I can see that this kind of overreach in control and government can really spiral. And I talked to a friend and I said, if you don't know what a tiger does, you may think it's just a nice cat. If you have not had an experience of seeing tiger attacking, right? So those who have had the experience of power being abused, we are more sensitized and we are more tuned to the subtle changes that happen gradually. And when that happens, it's almost too late because the rest of people who have not had the experience and who've had good life and safe life, and they trust what the government says, always, without any questions. It is dangerous. And also, I think that people we as species have evolved to have maybe to care about a few people in our tribe, but we don't have our evolutionary path has not really led us to be caring. It's not possible for us to care for the whole world. So we're quite self-centered species or being. But when it happens, when we communicate and when we actually see the accounts and when we put people to situations and animals to situations that they're in, or when we see them being in those situations, then something kicks in and the heart opens up and we are willing to actually make change. So I think that it starts from awareness. I'm not very clear. I'm not as clear as you are when it comes to expressing it, but we need to be aware of what's happening with us, how we function, and how we can overcome it, and talk to each other, not in an aggressive way, or angry way, but in a friendly way. You can see how much can be accomplished, how much more can be accomplished when we actually listen to each other and listen to the difference in opinions. That's democracy. And once that starts being diminished, and some people are labeled as evil, or some people are labeled, well, I mean, like in a country sense of world, let's see, some citizens that have different opinion are marginalized and ostracized, then that's the end of democracy. So we have to really be careful about that, and we have to talk and be open. And hopefully we'll be able to help you, Lana, more. So once again, let's repeat the website. I'm going to let you repeat it, where people can donate, just because I don't want to make a mistake.
It's ukrainianpatriot.org. And we are also on Facebook. So I will just caveat the site is new, and we are in the first iteration of it. So you won't see its entirety. Our Facebook is much more of a complete picture of who we are and why what we're doing is important. So please join us there as well. It's the same, ukrainianpatriot.org. And I want to finish off by saying again, thank you for your attention to this question, to what's happening here, and thank anyone for the support that you do give, whether it's to you, Peter, directly or through us, or wherever it is, wherever you feel called to help.
And for everyone else,
one more thing.
Carly, yes, please. You've been very quiet.
I just had a question. Sorry, no, it's okay. I've been enjoying the conversation.
Because I've been just so almost drawn in the. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I just had one more thing to add that I think our community would be interested in, because you, Lana, connected us to the Transform a Street Dog organization.
Yes.
So just wondering if you can maybe let us know how you're connected to them and what they're doing for the people and their pets.
So it was through them, through Transform a Street Dog, that I ended up taking these two pets, one cat and one dog, off of their owners who had to leave, and or weren't here when the crisis started. But what they're doing actually is amazing work. They take homeless animals, and sometimes not homeless, those that have been abused from different corners, and they look for homes, if not within Ukraine, within country, then outside of the country, within Europe, within the US and Canada as well. And so they're an amazing group who are tirelessly working also.
Thank you for asking the question, Carly. Lana, I have. We will never end actually this conversation. You know that. Right? I sense that there are going to be many people asking whether how they can adopt an animal from Ukraine. It's far away from Canada and the US, where most of our community is. But is there any way? Do you know of any channels that are already in place? Or if not, maybe we can ask anyone who's listening or watching if you guys have any connections with airlines or executives of airlines or people who can't possibly transfer these animals to their new homes if there is no hope for them finding their original home, which obviously would be the best.
Mm-hmm. So I will say that Transform a Street Dog is active in pairing animals with owners, humans abroad. And so if you reach out to them, again, we're sort of in the middle of search and rescue at the moment. So the connection between human and animal isn't as active as it might be in another time, but it's definitely this is definitely something that Transform a Street Dog engages in. And so if this is something that you're interested in, I would suggest that you reach out to them, and they'll keep you on a list, on a sort of waiting list, at the point that they can start moving animals over the border, and not just over the border, but over geographic borders in terms of continents as well. Then they will start doing that also.
Yeah, thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I hope we'll be in touch.
For me also.
And I'll send you my WhatsApp number. If you need anything, let us know. And Carly,
Wonderful.
thank you so much for doing such an amazing job finding a place where our need is help. Our need. I'm totally taken apart here. Thank you for finding the right cause and the right place. And Lana, good luck. Be safe. We will be in touch. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
I look forward to it. Thank you both. It's been a pleasure.